Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. I am your host Ben, and with me today is my co-host and, just podcaster extraordinaire, of which someone referred to his voice the other day as beautiful. It's Rob.
Well, hello ladies and gentlemen. Hope everyone is doing well today. That's a very nice compliment. I haven't had many compliments on my voice, and I for one hate my own voice. Like, I will go to extraordinary lengths to avoid hearing my own voice, yet I now do editing for a YouTube video channel and podcasts.
And have to listen to your own voice continuously.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel my efforts have not been well achieved there.
All I can say is you'll get used to it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Nobody likes it, I don't think, to start with. But I think we should also, he's not in shot right now, but he might be in shot later. We have a podcast cat now. We've had a podcast dog for some time, which is Frank, who's been the podcast dog mascot for Experience Kills for many years. But we now have a cat who likes to appear a lot. Mine gets shut out of the office. You never see those. But Rob, where's yours? What's the name and stuff?
So, my podcast cat, he's called Arthur. He is named after the cat in an anime called Code Geass, Lelouch of the Rebellion. There's a cat in there that bites one of the characters fairly often, called Arthur. And I wanted a name, I like normal names, human names for pets. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, something a little nerdy as well. So I went with Arthur. He's currently on my windowsill. I'm sure in about 10 minutes, at an awkward point, he will try and jump onto my lap and join part of the podcast, as he did last week. For anyone who didn't watch video on YouTube and just listen to it on any of the podcast streaming services, it's worth a look to just deal with my frustration of the cat trying to involve himself in the one, hour of the week I don't want him on me. So
that's why I have to shut the door, because I know they'd be up on the desk here with me and just want attention, and it'd be adorable, but also very frustrating when you're trying to link to the next thing on your show notes. I love him. Your cat seems adorable, so he's amazing. But hopefully he'll make an appearance shortly. And just so you know, I'm not in the land of the fogs and the mists. This is just my crap webcam. Which I desperately need to upgrade when they're available to buy again at not stupid prices, because I'm not spending silly money on a webcam. But yes, that's on the list. But shall we dive straight into this week's news? Because we've got news, we've got a topic, we've got some games we want to talk about. So I think we should get moving. Sound good?
That sounds great to me.
Okay, let's talk about, in a way, the biggest news sort of this week, but also I don't care. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered coming to the PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. This month, I think. Is it October? It's coming out November, very, very soon. Anybody excited for this particular Need for Speed game coming back after 10
Not really.
Years?
I was never a massive one for the Need for Speed games anyway. So this one's not exactly hitting tens on my excitement meter already. But I think launching a remaster of a game this close to a next generation, could you not have pushed it to the Series X, the PS5, and the Switch? Could you not have delayed it by a month, 6 weeks? Because then you could have struck lucky.
I watched the really weird trailer for it. Did you watch the trailer with all the live action stuff?
No. Why are we doing live action with video games now?
It was weird. It was all linked together with this strange competition this guy was having with some racer online, and he was obsessed with beating his time, and it was all very strange, and I just thought it was tonally very odd. And I think it was mostly because the gameplay is really underwhelming. It doesn't look like, oh, amazing, what a huge leap in visuals and stuff. It really just looked fine. This is not the remastered game we were hoping for from EA in this month. The long-rumoured Mass Effect Trilogy remaster was touted originally for this window, October, November of this year. And if you believe the reports that are coming out, has slipped due to them not being happy with being able to get the first Mass Effect up to the same standards as 2 and 3. So they're taking a bit more time, and it will now be Q1 next year. I just really, 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 really hope that's true. And I kind of wonder, did we get this because that missed the window? And they wanted something to fill that gap. That could be completely coincidental. It could just be a quick money game from EA because they've not got a huge amount of releases in this quarter. But I don't know. I'd much rather have me some Mass Effect.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I would not be on this podcast right now if there was a remastered Mass Effect 2 and 3 to play. I would be sat on my sofa, literally over there, playing Mass Effect Remastered.
Yep.
Because it's too much of a good game to pass up.
I mean, I guarantee that, you know, they're saying it's coming up with the DLC and everything. If there's 3,000 gamer score to get in that, I'm getting all 3,000. Like that's what I'm gonna just slay that. I'm so looking forward to that. And if it does hit like at the start of next year, when there's not a huge amount of games on the new consoles and stuff, I think that's a really good time for it. And hopefully that's what's going to happen. I'm very excited about it. So is my wife. So it's like anybody, man, Mass Effect. Oh, so good.
I'll be excited to get hold of, is it Yavik or Javik, the Prothean?
Did you never play with Yavik?
Oh, he went on my squad. He did not leave my squad.
Oh, okay.
He was forever on my squad. So I'll be excited to have his gun as well, because it was like a laser, I think, that disintegrated stuff. And yeah, no, I want that guy in any fire team I'm a part of ever.
So we've now spent more time speculating about the Mass Effect remaster than actually talking about Need for Speed, because that very much indicates how excited we aren't for Need for Speed. Okay, that's fair. Yep. Let's move on. Okay, Ghost of Tsushima is getting co-op multiplayer New Game Plus later this month. That's cool. Have you played any Ghost?
Very cool. I haven't. I don't have many games on my PS4. I only have Spider-Man, God of War, and The Last of Us, I think.
Yeah, like, you know, you're an exclusive boy. This is one that I'd add to that list. This is this is a PlayStation exclusive, and it is a beautiful game. Like, utterly gorgeous to look at. They absolutely nailed this pastoral beauty of rural Japan. And also it's got a really good combat system I really enjoyed. You know, just really good traversal mechanics, you know, riding that horse, going around the environments. You really feel like, you know, you want to spend time in that space. And even though there's not like loads of NPCs everywhere and it's not super dense like a lot of open world games might be in city settings, you really do get a great sense of the environment and the place and the people, and I think they've done an incredible job. And the fact that they're bringing in co-op multiplayer so you can play it with other people and stuff. I believe there's going to be like classes in the co-op multiplayer and stuff like that, which is interesting. And a new game plus, so for people that want that extra challenge, you can start the game up again, probably on a higher difficulty and stuff like that. That's cool. It's cool as a free edition. Definitely going to be worth checking that out.
Props to those devs for doing that as a free edition and not charging for it in today's DLC culture. I think that's absolutely amazing. The game looks beautiful. I want to pick it up, and I will later on down the line, but I have way too many to work on first.
maybe on well, it's difficult. It's like, you know, I don't know when you're thinking about maybe picking up a PS5, but it's one of those games which would probably benefit nicely if they enhance it for the PS5 and you know, bring in the ray tracing and that will do fancy lighting and stuff, and that would be a good place to pick that up maybe when it's you know, not busy with lots of new next gen titles. That would be a good one to go for. But yeah, I'm not sure what the plans are on that, but anyway. So now it's a difficult situation here because you don't necessarily want to big up a DLC announcement for a game that hasn't come out yet, but the concept excites me because I've long wanted an Assassin's Creed game to be set in the modern day and us to get that storyline, and it might be that we're getting it, but as DLC to Watch Dogs Legion. Now, they already announced that one of the DLC that's coming out as part of the Season Pass is going to be Aiden Pierce, who is the protagonist from the first Watch Dogs game. Which you may or may not be excited about. I imagine most people aren't, because that was kind of the worst thing about that game was that character. But in a way, he's become sort of like famous for his shitty Batman impersonation. So he's kind of like, I am looking forward to that. But yeah, the announcement is we're going to get some kind of Assassin's Creed, and it's a female assassin story DLC that's going to connect into the Watch Dogs universe, which seems like a given. It's almost amazing that there hasn't been a proper fully fledged crossover yet at this point. But the idea that they're finally doing it and we're finally connecting it up, they've already said it's the same universe. That was established some games back now. I believe it was in like an Easter egg inside of an Assassin's Creed game or something like that in one of the modern bits. But yeah, so that's cool. I'm kind of pumped to see that. And if they really go into it, it could be setting up a proper crossover game in the future. Now, Ubisoft is moving towards wanting to do a more connected universe, like we've seen Sam Fisher showing up in the Rainbow games. So it feels like it's inevitable that Rainbow, Sam from Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed, and Watch Dogs all kind of come together in a big AAA title of some kind down the line. that could be a clusterfuck of epic proportions, but it could also be really entertaining. So I'm kind of sort of excited. I don't know. I'm curious. I guess I'm gonna get Watch Dogs Legion. I'm looking forward to it. And being myself, I'll have to get the fancy edition with all the season passes because I just can't resist. But there's Arthur. He's on video.
What did I say?
He's on video.
What did I say?
Parkour assassin cat. Look at him. He heard about assassins. He's like, I'm going to do some parkour. I'm going to jump up on Rob, and we're going to get the action. If you listen to this on audio, you're really missing out on the full features here. But yes. So what do you think? I mean, are you looking forward to? Are you picking up Watch Dogs? Is that on your radar at all, or are you kind of waiting for critical reception, waiting until I tell you how good or shit it is, that kind of thing?
I'm probably not going to be picking it up. I tried with Watch Dogs, I think it was 1. I wasn't a massive fan. I like the more historical or fantasy open world games rather than the modern day open world ones. So for me, I'd much rather sit down and play an Assassin's Creed or a Skyrim or, to an extent, Just Cause. Or Far Cry, but I much prefer stuff that's older. Watch Dogs just didn't grab me. I just wasn't enthused by it. I don't know whether I just didn't play it far enough. I didn't give enough time, maybe. But yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's a totally fair interpretation of that first game. There was a lot of hype around that first game. There was a lot of anticipation, and it didn't really match it. The second one was a much better experience. It really goes much harder into the tech culture and the hacking and the kind of abuse of big data, which is what's so and it does it really well in the second game, actually, much better. So I'm curious because there's an upward trend, and also because of this concept in Legion where you can recruit anyone and they can become a member of your team, which is then a fully playable character, which you can then take out. And I think that sounds fascinating to me, just from a sort of hardcore gamer perspective, and I'm just curious. Like, that just piques my interest. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate into a fun game, but I'm curious enough to take the punt. You know what I mean? And I think that's the week leading up to the console releases. It comes out the week before, basically. So yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm not as excited as I am about Valhalla, which is the new Assassin's Creed game, but I am still definitely curious. Yes.
Yes.
So let's move on to some Microsoft news, because we do hit a lot of Microsoft news on this podcast, because we might be a teensy bit biased.
Just a little.
We try not to be. Look, we play everything. We play everything, but that's where our hearts originally lie.
We try not to be, but when Microsoft are just better, it's not. It's not.
He said it, not me. He said it. All right, shots fired.
Remain impartial.
So Microsoft have finally kind of confirmed. Microsoft sort of finally confirmed something I'd long been wondering about and thought was an obvious thing, which was the idea that xCloud was going to come in onto the Game Pass and PC and Xbox, as part of that ecosystem for streaming prior to fully downloading. And they've said, it's on the list. It's on the list of things they are going to work on. It's on their roadmap, to use some tech terminology. So I think it seemed obvious to us. It obviously seemed obvious to them as well. And it's something that they are going to look at implementing, which is nice to know. It's there. It's on their radar that they want to get xCloud utilized on the console, on the PC, as well as on mobile devices. So that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Indeed. I think that could end up with a streaming console. Not just a digital-only console. Talking far down the line at this point, but a streaming-only console.
So, do you mean it's like a Fire Stick? Like Xbox
essentially,
Fire Stick, yeah.
I think that could be a really interesting direction they go. Maybe not for a full catalogue of games, like a cut-down catalogue, but I think that may end up, or maybe where this particular little initiative ends up, which I think could be really, really good. If it's executed well, which it's Microsoft, they tend to do that most of the time, then I think that could be a very good end result. This is a promising step in a good direction, so I'm happy for that. I'd touch on another couple of Microsoft news as we are talking of Microsoft with the Xbox Series X. It has a really nifty little feature, which I really like. The tactile indicators on, I think it's the power port, the HDMI port on the back, so you don't have to scrabble around and turn the console and figure it out. You can use just tips your fingers to figure out where cables need to go.
It's so obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
The amount of times you felt, you're behind there and you're just trying to use your finger to like recognize the port. Like, because you really don't want to pull everything out, plug it all in. Oh, such a pain in the ass. And you're like, oh, which one is it? Which one is it? And it always used to be the annoying thing, actually, on the Xbox One. It says, obviously, the two HDMIs, one in, one out. So it's like, even if you got the one HDMI, you probably you got 50-50 chance of picking the wrong one. So then it's almost like that. So they've done this for people with, eyesight issues, as well as just helping reaching behind a console, which it just shows Microsoft's commitment to accessibility when it comes to the Xbox platform. We've already got the amazing, incredible piece of kit that is the adaptive controller, which is just mind-blowing in the levels of customization that they went into with that, the amount of thought and research and development and implementation that went into that, which is super cool. And now it's just like you can see that ethos carrying forwards, through the design philosophy of the Series X and S and stuff. And I think that's just a good thing. It's just an obvious thing that, how has that not always been a feature? But
exactly,
I'm glad it's there.
It seems foolish that such a thing wasn't already on the consoles, because surely that's just an amazing idea. So props to the person who had that brainstorming idea at some point in the console's life cycle. One thing I'm curious about, apparently Microsoft has a plan to circumvent Apple to get Xbox on iOS. How are they doing that, the crafty buggers?
So this sounds to me like the way Amazon Luna is going to get around it as well. We talked about Luna, I think, on the previous show, didn't we? Yeah, so the new streaming service from Amazon. And the way they're doing it onto the devices on iOS is it's going to work inside of a web browser. Rather than inside of a dedicated app. So I suspect, from what it's indicated here, they're going to do something similar. Because if it's working in a browser, you don't have to follow the same regulations as the app being on the store and stuff like that. So it could be an app that just opens a browser, some kind of bespoke browser interface, which lets you get onto Game Pass and stream and stuff like that. So that's pretty clever. I mean, from both Amazon and Microsoft, how do you get around the stupid draconian rules and regs that Apple and Google have put on their storefronts? Yeah, you put it on a browser. And the only way then that they could clamp down on that would be to clamp down on browsers, which I suspect they wouldn't do because it's going to hugely affect so many elements of the system. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Of course, it wasn't all good news this week. There was one bit of news that did sadden me. There are currently no plans for any Star Wars Squadrons DLC or extra modes or extra development. What we've got is what we've got.
I thought that might
happen.
I thought that might happen. You know what? They made no talk of it prior to release, and the fact that we've got, for all intents and purposes, a budget release here at a budget price point. The game. I mean, I say budget. I mean, it makes you think. Not well made. That's not the case. It's just that there was a scope here, there was a team size here, there was a certain level of resources that were given to this game, and EA, in what is frankly a unlike them move, very unlike them, they're trying different stuff here, which I have to respect. They've pared it down. And they've said, do you know what? We have focused experience here. We're going to do one thing. We're going to do it really, really well. And they've achieved that. I mean, me and you, Rob, so let's talk about it. We've played a lot more. So we had a little first touch, a few hours. We talked about it on the last show. We played a lot more of the game now, and I think got a real handle on the multiplayer.
We know what we're doing.
We know what we're doing. Though saying that, when I take a few days off, I still do go back to it and forget all the controls. And then in the first match, really suck. But no, now I know what class I like to predominantly play. Now I know the different ships varieties and between the different feeling between the Rebel Alliance and the Imperials, and I definitely prefer the New Republic / Rebels, their ships to the Imperials. I just like the visibility for me is what makes them so much better. Even with the Imperial's massive improvement in speed, I'd rather have situational awareness than speed in that game, to be honest. But no, I'm a big fan of the bombers. I love going in and iron cannoning. Is that a thing? It is now.
It is. Yeah, it is now.
It is now, and dropping bombs on the cap ships. Now that we understand how to take capital ships out, it's much more satisfying.
Shield generators first.
Yeah, damn right. Damn right.
Always.
Focus on them shield generators. Absolutely. Well, you say that, but like, what about the targeting system's pretty good to take out, because it gives you more of an effective run, doesn't it, without being taken out by its batteries.
True, but then you spend less time shooting its shields and more time shooting the targeting array, which should be your next thing after the shield generators.
So we've been playing it in like Squad of 3, me, you, and one of our other friends, and yeah, we've got pretty good. I mean, we don't win them all, we don't lose them all. It's fairly consistently balanced, I'd say. It very much depends on if you can keep that full squad size, people don't drop out and stuff. But as long as that happens, the fact that, I don't think we talked about it much, but the fact that it's cross-play is really interesting. It means that you've got a deeper player base, you know, between Xbox and PC, which is pretty cool. I keep thinking about buying a HOTAS setup just for this game, and then resisting, because that would be insane. It'd be insane. It'd be like spending like more than twice, 3 times the amount of the game on a joystick that I would use just for the game. That doesn't, I can't justify that. But yeah, I think the controls on the actual controller are mapped well. It takes a bit of getting used to, but like, you know, I think we mentioned last time, there's huge amounts of customization on that controller. So, have you played any more than single player?
I have done a bit. I went through a couple of very difficult missions that are quite tough. But it's just a really well put together campaign. The fact that you don't follow one protagonist and you do swing between the 2 factions makes a nice interweaved narrative that is really well executed. Hats off to EA there. But I think it's meant to be the multiplayer. That's what the game is for. I think the single player was we should do a single player, but we want a good multiplayer experience. Which is also why I think they've not focused on having 17 different playlists and different modes. They've just got 2.
Is that enough?
For now, yes. As more games come out, I wonder whether this one will get left behind.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I was thinking about it. So you just got a dogfighting mode, and then the what's the fleet battles, which is the kind of you go in with capital ships, and there's a couple of different phases to it, and you kind of, there's a push and pull sort of tug of war between the sides, which feels very well balanced, to be honest, if you've got, you know, remotely competent people on the 2 teams. And then there's just the 5v5 dogfighting mode. I'm not sure there is enough, but at the same time, I'm not sure what else you could do. Like, you can't really do CTF. That would be sort of stupid. Like, so what modes, what other modes would you have in a space dogfighting game that make sense within the canon, within the lore, you know, that don't feel completely at odds with what is designed to feel like a canon experience? You know, all of the multiplayer feels like it could be a scene from one of the movies. So you can't, you know, the fact is, if you start doing stuff like CTF or King of the Hill type game types, it stops being Star Wars and it just becomes, here's a multiplayer experience. And I think they've done a really good job of keeping everything very much in universe. And I really respect that. And you know what? I really like the customizations. I really like the different loadout options you have. You can really build your different, you know, classes of ships into very different specific roles. And there's loads you can do with that. And of course, once you start unlocking lots, you build different profiles for them, and you can quickly switch between them. And I think, you know, matchmaking is really good. Load times are perfectly serviceable. You know, I haven't seen a lot of network issues or lag or anything like that. No. And it just seems to play well, run well, look great. Would love to try it in VR, but, you know, there you go. Have you done that yet? You were talking about it.
I'd need to buy the game again. Yes. So I'm waiting for that. It is on my list to pick up, but I don't want to pay 35 quid just for a done. I want to I want to wait 10, 15 quid. I would buy and do that in a heartbeat. So that's gonna happen. Just there are other VR options first.
I'm you know, once again, coming at this from the gaming nerd who talks about gaming in the industry a lot, I'm really curious to see if this is an indicator of, like, EA going forward a bit. Like, you know,
it's a bit of personal growth. They're not filling a game with microtransactions.
Well, it's not just not microtransactions. It's £35. It's you know, we're not future supporting this. We're not going forward with loads of DLC plans and season passes. it's a very different business model for them. It's like a triple indie business model, you know, when you have the big indie releases that generate, you know, go up to 30, £35 area, you know, and they've got a lot of hype around them or something, and they can kind of justify that. But, you know, those are pretty rare as well, to be honest. But the fact that we have a Star Wars game coming out not at £50, £60 is really, really interesting. When you're dealing with a license with that clout, I'm very curious to see if, you know, if we're seeing some kind of shift in the industry here, and this is the first indicator that, you know, those pricing models are not going to necessarily be sustainable into the next generation, because people, they're not willing to drop that money, you know, especially as, you know, we're talking about Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed, so the additions you can get with those games, with all this, the most expensive editions digitally, with, you know, the season pass, with all the bells and whistles and stuff, they're just shy of £100 each. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money,
especially considering the current economic climate the world is moving towards. Special editions are going to start becoming luxuries again, rather than people being able to just drop the money on them. Yep,
I think people are going to be much more sensible. And when you talk about a game like this, which has got multiplayer at its core, so therefore a lot of replayability, £35 for a very, very authentic Star Wars experience is an incredibly good sell. So,
it's what made my mind up immediately. I was expecting 45, 50 quid for the game for a full release, and the second I saw it was $34.99, I bought it on the spot. It was literally decision made in that instant. So,
I feel you.
Yeah. Hopefully, EA, they're growing a bit, because I think Squadrons has succeeded. I think it's done well. So I'm hoping that will inform their decision making moving forward.
So let's move on to our little topic for the week, and as we start to close another page, finish a chapter on this generation of video games consoles on the Xbox One and the PS4. I thought it might be fun to have a little look back here, just me and Rob, at some of the games that either we loved and didn't get a huge amount of recognition, or going back and looking at them now, you sort of play them and go, you know what, that was more fun than it was sort of reviewed at the time. People were very harsh on it. And just sort of little games that were surprises and that not a lot of people are aware of. So yeah, we've got a little list here of games between me and Rob here, and we're just going to be like, yeah, well, which ones of these games? If you know, you're coming to an end here, maybe you can pick them up cheap. Maybe you've got a little bit of time before the next consoles to give them a go, before it doesn't necessarily make as much sense. You know, you've got your Xbox One down there and your PS4. Why not pick these up and go into the sunset with your console one last time before the new generation comes around? So we've got some interesting suggestions here. I mean, right back to the beginning of the Xbox One. It's a launch title, was Ryse Son of Rome. And don't get me wrong, this game is not the most fun to play. It was made by Crytek. And it was a big departure from them, obviously, away from their first-person shooters. And this was a third-person action-adventure game. You were a Roman legionnaire. And at the time, the main thing about it was a technical showcase for the visuals, and it looks incredible. The game still looks really good, even holds up to today, at the end of the generation. The problem was, the gameplay was very simplistic. There was a lot of QTEs, which I'm glad we've moved away from this generation, definitely. A lot less QTEs now. And if there are QTEs, you can go into the accessibility options and just sort of turn off the button mashing aspects, which is brilliant. Yeah, so I mean, Ryse Son of Rome stands out to me. For me, the memory of that was good story. I enjoyed the narrative of Ryse Son of Rome. Is that what makes you remember it as well?
I enjoyed the fact of the gameplay really more. It was a solid narrative. It was a good story. I don't think it was the most exciting story in the world. It was just a good story. Not every story has to be genre defining. You know, it was a competent narrative that went through the game. It was nice going through the different environments. Like we said before, graphically, it was rendered beautifully. But it was just fun, chopping people up as a Roman legionnaire, which I think this was one of the first games that's really done much in that Roman era. Not many games go to that honeypot of potential, really.
No, I think you're right. There aren't many strategy games come to mind, but not a lot like this. So you remember it for enjoying the gameplay? That's curious.
Yeah, I like sword fighting combat games. It's why I played For Honor, and things like that.
Okay, no, fair enough. I don't remember the gameplay being particularly
good. It wasn't like S tier, phenomenal, world shattering. Oh my god, my mind is melting out of my ears. It was just fun. It was good.
Just try and imagine Ryse Son of Rome here with like Devil May Cry style combat. Wouldn't really work, would it? Let's be honest.
Dark Souls combat.
Oh well, okay, that would work probably, yeah. But then I wouldn't have enjoyed it at all. So that wouldn't have worked for me.
I would have not finished it.
I wouldn't have even beaten the first boss. Like I would have just gone, nope, not for them. Another sort of game here slash franchise now, because we've had a couple of releases for this. Is State of Decay. Now, State of Decay...
I missed this.
Yeah, see, this is interesting to me, yeah. Because State of Decay, like Ryse, is a Xbox exclusive. And only available on the Xbox platform. However, this is like... How would I describe this? This is like a Walking Dead sim. This is be in the zombie apocalypse, do what you would need to do to survive, but in a fun way. Unlike, say, a DayZ, this is, you live a little camp, you get survivors together, you go out on scavenging runs, you're mostly just trying to survive in the zombie. Yeah. And with State of Decay 2, they've really improved how the co-op works and the multiplayer works. And it's on Game Pass, Rob, and I'm kind of blown away you've never played them. They're really good fun. You don't have to play them on like a punishing difficulty. There's lots of options for ways of playing these games. So it's hard or as easy as you want them to be. But at the crux of it, it's like a zombie apocalypse survival sim. But, in a way that, there's base management, you're building different bits to go on your base, and then you're going out and scavenging for materials, but then you can also send out the AI guys to do stuff as well, and you've got vehicles you're driving around in, and you got to find petrol for them, and look after that. But it's all third person, and it's done in it's not tongue-in-cheek, but it's done in a sort of accessible way that, unlike, those first-person ones that were the mods that were, the big PC games, DayZ and stuff, which are very punishing with, big focus on it, almost like MMO levels of interactivity with other players. This is much more just like you and your friends are playing, and, you're not going to get griefed by some other rando who's just going to ruin your base. This is much
Depends
more...
on your friends.
Well, yeah, sure. But, you've got, ridiculously over-the-top weapons sometimes, and you find all kinds of, different ranged weapons and melee weapons, and you're crafting, and you're... It's just really good fun, and it weirdly, for what is quite a stressful setting, it can be quite a relaxed experience. I know when I've played with a friend of the show, Mark, in the past, we just sort of hung out for quite a while, just doing runs and protecting each other and doing the odd side mission. There are story missions and stuff in there as well, so that there is a thrust to the narrative, but really you can just sort of do it at your own pace. And I think the second one built on the first one really nicely. Big improvements in the graphics and the engine and stuff, but at its core it's still a very similar experience. But well worth checking out. Not many people are aware of it. Seemingly not many people have played it, which is really shocking to me, because ever since the first one came out, I think it was made by a company called, I want to say Undead Labs, but I could be horribly wrong. So I apologise if that is incorrect, but I'm trying to pull that one.
Yeah, fitting name if it was Undead Labs.
Yeah, well, I think
it would be a very fitting name.
I think they came together to make the first game, so it was kind of like one of those things where this is what they wanted to do, and I think the goal was always to go more MMO, bigger player base, and I think they're still working towards that, but 2 was still fairly pared down and stuff, but in that regard. But no, really, really good, really solid game, really good fun, great to while away the hours, much like a Destiny kind of experience, you just go in there and mash some zombies up and hang out. It's really good, yeah.
The next one on the list, this is one of mine, and I know Ben is going to ridicule me for this one, but I don't care, because it was actually a good game. We'll dial back in time just a little bit. We were in the middle of just getting toward the tail end of the Toys to Life set of games. So we had Skylanders, Disney Infinity, that sort of stuff.
Lego.
Yes, Lego as well. And there was a game called Starlink, Battle for Atlas, where it came with, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the props that I can provide. You bought the game and it came with different ships and pilots and weapons. The thing is, I can see Ben chuckling already. The thing is, it was actually a really, really good game. Really, really good. Seamless planet to space. across half a dozen different planets, I think. Massive options for customization, depending on what toys you get. You can get a digital deluxe version, which has everything digitally, and you don't need to get a single thing. But it does come with a little controller mount that clips into the controller, and you mount your ship on top. And as you pull weapons and wings off these ships, the game live updates. But it has half a dozen different elements. It has pilot skill trees, ship skill trees, a deep breadth of weapons, engaging combat. It's actually really good. But I think it got stuck in that Toys to Life umbrella because people didn't want the outlay for it.
I remember when they announced this at E3. I could tell you what year, but I remember distinctly looking at that going, oh dear. Because even at that point, Toys to Life was dead. You'd already had at least 2 of the big ones, if not all of them, announced that they were shuttering. And when that game finally came out, I was like, surely they'll drop the toys because this isn't going to work. The whole genre has died already. That whole market space is oversaturated. Nobody's buying them anymore. They're all in bargain bins. They'll drop the toys. They didn't. It still came out with all the toys, and I was like, wow. And then almost immediately you started seeing the price drop down to like almost nothing very, very, very quickly. And I don't know if you do pick up the physical stuff, you can pick it up very cheap. And it was one of those things where I was definitely interested in it because I was looking at it going, right, if I was 13, 14 again, oh my God, this would have been the coolest shit. Like I would have been all over it. And then I heard, like Richard picked up the digital deluxe edition and was telling me about how the game is actually really solid and really good fun. But I kind of would want the toys as well, and I never actually got around to it, never committed to it, never picked it up. But it looked very cool. It looked very cool and fun and sci-fi but a bit cartoony, like the Saturday morning cartoon vibe to it, which I thought is clearly what they were going for. And the technology of the switching the weapons, seamless instant changing of your loadouts based on the toys you have and the pilots you put in them and the ships you put on it. I thought all that was so cool. I love this technology, this RFID tech. But I feel like, it's already done. It's something that's going to be left with this generation. Maybe the only thing that will continue forward maybe is the amiibos, because Nintendo never seemed to give up on any of their silly gimmicks. But that's it. Other than that, I think this is going to be a weird little footnote to this generation, which is why it fits into this category perfectly. Because it's this strange thing we had, Toys to Life. People will look back at that in the same way they look back at the plastic instruments from the rhythm games. We still got Rock Band, don't get me wrong, that's come through this generation as well, but nowhere near in the same way as the previous generation. And I think, the RFID tech, it was a fun, cool gimmick, Skylanders, Lego Dimensions, and Disney Infinity, which was easily, I think, the coolest one, the Disney stuff. And it's such a shame because where that was going with the variety of properties they had, it was really going to just keep going. But no, the bottom fell out of the market, and you got to do what the customers want at the end of the day. If they're not buying it, you need to stop making it.
Exactly. So the thing is, once I'm done with Starlink Battle of Atlas, because I played it for a bit and then I moved away, I think another game came out and I got distracted and so on and so on. I mean, I'm a Destiny player. I just went back to that. They're just well-made toys at the same time, and I have a family friend or a couple who have a 4-year-old, so I will just gift them to him when I'm not going to play the games anymore because he would really enjoy. I'm getting a couple of the other ships that I have in front of me.
They look so cool. Like they look so cool.
He would just really enjoy having a bunch of ships, going zoom, zoom, zoom all over the place. So once I'm done, I'll just give them to him.
They do look so cool. I don't know how I avoided the whole Toys to Life thing, because you'd have thought, man-child as I am, that one of them would have grabbed me, and somehow I never fell into that hole. And I'm not really sure how I avoided it, but I'm kind of glad I did, because these boxes behind me are already full of other crap, so I would have had another box full of those. So somehow I dodged that.
This is the only one I fell into.
It's the coolest one. It's just a shame it came at the end. If it hadn't come at the end, maybe it would have had a different future. Right, let's move on to something else. Have you played the Superhot games, Rob?
Oh my God, Superhot is amazing.
So these
not on console.
Oh okay.
No, it. Hear me out here.
All right, let me you come back to it, all right? Let me frame it first. So I was just going to say,
yeah.
Superhot is kind of like the video game for tech nerds. It's like a shooter for people sort of into gaming culture and life, and the idea of the Matrix and the idea of, you know, tech runners and all that kind of weird concepts you get from the cyberpunk worlds. It's this strange experience where it's half puzzle game, half first person shooter, and all the Matrix all the time, and you basically feel like freaking Neo, and being the most ultimate badass ever. There's 3 games out now, if you include the first one, the VR one, and now the new kind of like endless mode one that's come out. I'm not sure why Rob is going to say PC only. I think it played brilliantly on my Xbox, the first one. The VR one, yeah, you can't, you know, the VR one's really good actually on PSVR. I played it on PSVR. It worked really well on PSVR as well. But obviously, you know, the better the set, the better the playing will be. But is that what you were getting at, Rob, sort of thing?
100%.
Okay.
This game is great on a console. It's just great. It's good fun. It's well built. It's unique. But the time being slow when you're not moving, so you can like steal weapons or block bullets with your fists, all that sort of stuff. That
so good.
is brilliant. But when you do it in VR, it's another game because you have that range of movement. Having that endless mode in VR is just amazing fun. It takes it to another level for me. It was when I got my Oculus Rift, it was one of the first games I bought. That was awful grammar. Oh my god.
The first games I bought.
First game I bought. Moron.
It's also got a cool as fuck story, and like framing and the world. And I'll never forget the bit when you take them, you know, I don't want to spoil it, but like there's a whole element of like what is real and what is game, and it's so fun. And they do such a good job of it all, and it really gets it all in a brilliant way. And they're all very reasonably priced, all in the indie pricing kind of brackets. Even if you can't get the PSVR sort of first sequel, they do all connect, but they're all sort of standalone as well. Mind Control Delete is the newest one, isn't it? If I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, that's the one that just came out this summer. I haven't actually had a chance to play that one yet. It's on my list. It's on my console even, but I just haven't had a chance. But yeah, they're flipping great. Like totally underrated, easily missed, because people kind of look at the art and go, "What? I don't want to play that." But it all works so well in the setting. It's absolutely genius.
Recommendation of the week: if you can pick it up, it will take you through a fun afternoon of playing through. They aren't very long games. They're very repeatable, but they're not very long. So if you've got a spare tenner, I think they're all under a tenner. I know Superhot itself is under a tenner. So just go for it. Have a fun afternoon.
Really good. Quantum Break, Rob, was the kind of ugly middle child from Remedy. So it came out after the critically lauded Alan Wake. Obviously, they made the Max Payne games 1 and 2 as well, but kind of the Remedy-verse started with Alan Wake. We then got Quantum Break, and now we've got Control. You can see a lot of Control in Quantum Break. You can see them starting their kind of the way the combat works. You can see them starting off with the idea of mixing the powers with ranged combat and gunplay, and you can see how it's then refined into Control, and very much Control is a direct sort of descendant of Quantum Break. And Quantum Break is, again, an Xbox exclusive title, which is one of the reasons it struggled, one of the reasons it kind of went under the radar. But in addition, it did this incredibly gutsy thing with integrating live action TV episodes into the story of the video game. So basically, you'd play a chapter in the video game, and then you'd have a FMV cutscene or live action TV episode, which would tell the events from the perspective of the villain. And gave you more depth and understanding behind his motivations. And watching it now, you can see it wasn't an infinite budget, but it wasn't at the same time no money. This was at the beginning of like prestige TV really taking off, and you can a bit more cash would have gone a long way. But I still think they're well acted, well performed, with lots of people in them that you would recognize from very established TV shows such as Game of Thrones and The Boys and things like that. So honestly, I love how experimental it is. It's probably pushed things. It went a bit too far into TV land, I think, for most people. Because, you know, at the end of the day, if you buy a game, you kind of want to play a game rather than watching a TV episode, I suppose. But you can really see the DNA of Control in Quantum Break. So for that reason, I think it's worth checking out. And I'll be interested to see. Obviously, they're tying Alan Wake into the Remedyverse. I'll be interested to see if they ever tie QB in as well. That might be difficult because the female lead in Quantum Break is also the woman who played Jessie in Control, so it might be tough for them to like sort of align all of that. But hey, they could in that universe. That universe is so weird, so why not?
You've kind of blown my mind a little bit there. I knew Control reminded me of a game. It just hit that button in the back of my head that reminded me of another one. Reminded me of Quantum Break.
That would be because it's made by them, yes.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
the more the fact that, you know, it's the next step up.
Definitely.
And you can see sort of the infantile steps that they made with Quantum Break compared to the mature version in Control, where they started a bit and then just went to another level.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not to say the combat is bad in Quantum Break. It's just been built upon in Control in very satisfying ways. And it's a good story and a fun game, and it looks great and it looks really good. And you know, and I imagine by the time we get onto the next generation, it'll look even better on there, and run even smoother and stuff. So yeah. So I think we should probably try and move away from the Xbox exclusives. I want to talk about a PlayStation exclusive game, which I think fell under a lot of people's radars as well from this generation, which was Supergiant's game. It came after Transistor and before Hades, and that's Pyre. Now, these guys don't make bad games. Don't want to jinx them, but they literally have never made a bad game at Supergiant Games. From Bastion through Transistor, through Pyre, and now Hades. These guys knock it out of the park. But I think with Pyre, they had a problem here because it's so weird. It's basically fantasy basketball and a visual novel combined, right? With this incredible, Rob's face says it all, right? That's the kind of elevator pitch: fantasy basketball and a visual novel. So huge amounts of really well written text, lots of choices to make, brilliant art style. They always have incredible art. It looks fantastic, and you can see the bit between Transistor and Pyre here. There's again clear lineage in their art style as it's progressed. But yeah, the core gameplay is fantasy basketball, something called the rights that you do, and you have like a team, like a squad of guys, and you play basketball against an opposing squad. Now, it's not exactly basketball, but there are balls and there's kind of goals, and it's basically fantasy basketball, and you're passing the ball between each other. They call it this like a glowy ball, but it's still a ball. And honestly, that I think put a lot of people off because they see that and go, what the am I looking at? Like, what is this game? But it's really worth experiencing. It's so unique. It's so strange. It's gorgeous. It's brilliantly written. It's got incredible music. There's honestly, they don't make bad games. I just think they possibly push the envelope a little too far with this one. Because if you look at Hades is very much a continuation of what they had in Bastion, a continuation of what they had in Transistor, and it's in some ways a much safer prospect. Like they did it in early access, they built it over time with feedback, and it's now with full release turned out to be one of the big hits of the year. People are crowing about it everywhere as Game of the Year contender, and it is incredible, but it's safe. And I there's nothing wrong with that. They've honed it. I don't mind that. It's still really, really good. But Pyre was the experimental one. Pyre is the ugly duckling of the family here. It stands out with its uniqueness. Give it a go. Give it a go. Seriously, so strange.
It sounds unique. Is the word I'm going to use?
Never played anything like it. Totally unique. Totally unique. And that's an exclusive on the PlayStation family of consoles. So yeah, so you can only pick that up on PlayStation. Is it just me now at the end of the list here? Because these are all games you haven't played, aren't they, Rob?
Yes,
I'll be quick. I'll get through them.
I am quite curious about the What Remains of Edith Finch. Yes. I've never heard of that one, I must say.
So this is a first-person perspective, narrative-focused adventure game, which is probably why you've not heard of it, because it's not your type of game, really, Rob, in that regard. But what it does really well, unlike something like Dear Esther or those other walking sims, is it changes the perspective. So you don't play as the same character throughout the game. So you play as Edith to start with, but then you go in around this weird, twisted, strange house. And as you go around it, you go into different rooms. And the different rooms, you then transition to tell a vignette from the perspective of the character that room is associated with. Now, this could be a baby, this could be a granddad, this could be various members of the family. It's really all over the place. It's, dude, it's heartbreaking. It's emotional. It's got very strange fantasy elements that are really weird and trippy and awesome. It's fairly, relatively short, like 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that. You'll get through it. It's beautifully written, beautifully voice acted, and they just do a great job telling all of these vignettes, and really moving at the end. Like, there's a couple of the vignettes which are just heartbreaking, and I don't want to spoil any of it because the whole point is to experience that story. But it's definitely gone under a lot of people's radars. It's a weird name. It's got not the most alluring cover art from what I remember on the digital storefronts. It's just like a picture of a house, like a weird looking house, but it's still just a house that says What Remains of Edith Finch. It doesn't tell you anything about the game. I think it's one of those things where it's a word of mouth job, and I tell anybody I can about this. It's definitely one of my games of the generation. And look, it's one of those things where I think it got critically well regarded, but even then, a lot of people haven't played them. A lot of people, pick a lot of safe games, don't they? Pick their AAA titles, pick their shooters, pick their sports games. But this is, if I was going to pick one of those walking sims, in inverted commas, this would be the one. This would be the one. It's truly at the pinnacle of the genre. Experimental in the way it tells its story, and hits the emotional beats just, man, really clatters you. Really good. Yeah. I'll quickly, the last one because a lot of these games, interestingly, are kind of the ugly duckling of that series, the ones that, or that family of titles, Quantum Break, Pyre, and the last one here is another one like that, Mafia 3. Now, a lot of people are really hard on Mafia 3. It's my favourite Mafia game. So it's an open world action game. I don't know if you've ever played any of the Mafia games, but it's...
I think I played Mafia 2 briefly.
Mafia 2 is very good. But Mafia 3, for me, the setting, the character choices, so the fact that you are this young black man coming back from Vietnam, back to an American city, they don't have no interest in you, nobody cares, you're basically thrown in the gutter. You got to pull yourself up, get out there, and the way that Clay gets back into the world is through crime, and he starts, basically organized crime from his neighborhood, and then vying with the established organized crime organizations around the city. It's like a New Orleans style city in the South, and then it's basically the gameplay is you taking over the city, and some really good story stuff in there as well. Hard hitting stuff. They do not shy away from the racism, and they do not shy away from the corruption in the police and stuff like that. They really go for it. It's got really satisfying combat. I thought the combat in the game felt really well, really good. I'm not a big fan of the GTA style open world games, basic crime simulators. I find them quite boring. That's why I much prefer the Saints Row games. But there's something about this one. I played it all the way through. I did all the DLC. I absolutely loved this. And it was the setting, the characters, the way the story was delivered, the way Hangar 13 didn't shy away from the politics. Really enjoyed that. It was really gutsy. They've gone back now and they've remastered and re-released the first game, and they've put a definitive edition of the second game out, and there's a trilogy option now for all three. And I do think if you haven't played any of them, definitely pick up the trilogy edition. But yeah, I think 3 stands alone. There are some little narrative connections to the previous game, but they are minor and pretty inconsequential. So if you haven't played the previous ones, it's fine. Some of the management-y type stuff from the second game, where you're like managing the income and the kinds of rackets you're running in a bit more of a definitive way, have been lost in the third one. But to be honest, I didn't really miss that. I just enjoyed getting around the city, racing around in really cool cars, running around, shooting people, doing all that. It just felt good. I didn't miss the management stuff. It's my favorite of the Mafia games. Yeah, which is definitely the contrary opinion from most. Most people really much prefer the first two. So, I really like the third one. But yeah, that was my last little take. So, have you got anything else you wanted to add here, Rob, or should we move on?
I think we should move on. What have you been playing this week, Ben?
What have I been playing? Well, we've already talked about Star Wars. That's been the
Indeed.
big thing I've been playing. But in my quest to still reach the lofty heights of 10,000 gamer score, I think we've got about a week left on that. So I can get all those reward points. I've been going through Game Pass games, and I found a couple I really enjoyed. They're both very different. So The Station, which is one of those aforementioned walking sims, but it's all set on a sci-fi space station. You literally just walk around, you click on things, you pick the odd few things up, do some light puzzling, and get a surprisingly cool story with a decent twist in the end, which I shall not spoil for obvious reasons. But this was I thought I was going to log in for 45 minutes right into this game, and get some of the early achievements. I think I beat the game in just over an hour. So I was like, I'm done. Cool. And ended up picking up most of the achievements, most of the 1,000. So I was like, I've been trying. Like, I didn't look at any guides or anything. And I was like, that's happy with that. I enjoyed that experience. I think I picked it up in the sale at some point months ago, or it was a Game Pass game, one or the other. I think if you do buy it, it's cheap. But yeah, it's a good little story, well told, good twist at the end, convincing sci-fi setting. Can't fault that. All good. And then the other game I played was definitely a Game Pass game. And this is a weird game. It's called Sea Salt. So in Sea Salt, you play as the Elder Gods, right? So you are one of, I think you're Dagon, because there's a lot of underwater shit in this. A lot of water.
Interesting.
But it's kind of like an RTS light. So it's got a pixel art style. I know you're a big fan of Elder Gods, and you weren't aware of that.
I am.
Don't know this one. It's on Game Pass. And in this, you control with a cursor on the screen the hordes of creatures that you can summon forth to destroy the humans who have betrayed you. You basically demanded a certain sacrifice from them. I don't want to spoil things. And they were like, no. And you're like, right then, I'm going to mess you up. And it's a case of, you're summoning swarms of insects, and then you've got those particular Lovecraftian crab things, and you've got all these different, and you get different creatures as you go through it and unlock different things, and then you've got cultists and minions and all kinds of different things you can summon. But the basic goal is to go through the levels, kill all the humans, and just clear the levels that way. And the challenge comes from the different makeup of your swarm, however what kind of creatures you want to have being controlled by you against the certain types of enemies you're going to be facing. But basically, it's very simple controls. You drag the cursor, and when you pull the right trigger, your guys attack. And when you're not pulling the right trigger, you can avoid things like fire and stuff and move a bit quicker. But basically, they'll just attack the nearest humans that they can and devour them. And the best bit, when you get to the main boss dude at the end of each level, and you fight him and you defeat him, then it's like he's on the screen screaming like this, and then these tentacles come in from all around the screen, get all of his limbs, and then rip him apart in front of you, and you're like, I am an elder god, you puny humans will suffer. Once again, would you have known that from the title of this game, or the cover art for this tile on Game Pass? No, you wouldn't. You would have had no idea what this game is.
From the title, I was thinking it was something sea related. I was thinking maybe some sort of boat game. That's what I foresaw, not Dagon. So I will take it.
Dude, you got to check this one out. Yeah, it's on Game Pass. It's a tiny download. Give it a go. Have a look. If you enjoy your Lovecraftian monsters, this is the one, because they're all in it, and it's great. Yeah, it's really, really good. What about you? What have you been playing? I know you've gone back to one of our favourites.
I've got to get my fix. I've gone back to Destiny 2. They're doing their Halloween event at the moment. I know it's a time of recording the 11th of October, but it's Halloween in video game land, and it's the Festival of the Lost, which is their Halloween offering. So the tower, the social spaces are all decked out in spooky effects and candles everywhere and all that sort of stuff. I can see Ben shaking his head and rolling his eyes. It's a seasonal thing, Ben.
I hate fucking seasonal events. I hate them. They always look so stupid. They make everything look crap. It's like, what is this? Anyway, carry on.
So the Infinite Forest is back. They're using that the same way they did last year. It's essentially the same thing, but you can farm god rolls, and you can farm rolls at the end of the runs for the guns that have previously been a part of this event in the past couple of years. Both of them are auto rifles, both of them are very good. So I can't recall if there is another gun to get. I just can't remember. I've not been focusing too hard on that. I'm trying to grind through the season pass before November 10th because there's a certain item I want at a certain level, and I want to make sure I get it. So I've been doing the bounty whore game because I need my fix, and it plays beautifully on my PC. So that's where I've been going.
Hey, look, fair play to you. I mean, my question is, I haven't had a dip into this particular event, but like, how achievable are the good shit? Because at the last event, when I realized what I'd need to do to get all of that armor, I kind of just went, nope. I noped out so hard and didn't even try because the amount of grinding required was just way beyond anything I could be bothered to do. So what we talking about?
Completely different to that event. Completely different. This is a different nature of event. Full stop. Right? It's not celebrating anything. It's giving you another activity to do.
Right.
So there isn't necessarily armor to grind for. There is actually a amazing Warlock set from the Eververse store. I can't believe I'm sat here plugging the Eververse store. I've bought precisely 2 things from there ever, and the armor piece or the armor ornament for Festival of the Lost 2020 is one of them. It bedecks a Warlock to look like a Renaissance vampire count, like long tailcoat, frilly shirt. Has like the helmet ornament has like fangs, and it looks awesome.
Each unto their own. I would want nothing less than to walk around looking like that in the Destiny universe. But there you go.
It's better than some of the armor sets we've had recently, and it's a universal ornament. I bought it all with Bright Dust. I didn't actually give them any real world money, which I'm very, very determined never to do so. Just from a point of personal views.
Well, the fact is they get 60 quid out of you every year, don't they?
Exactly. Right? So I don't want to give them any more.
Yeah, you know, I've already got my pre-order down. The most expensive. I can't even remember what was in that. I pre-ordered it so long ago before the delays. I don't even remember what's in the pre-order that I've paid for, which is included in Game Pass, half of it now. So I'm like, what am I doing? But anyway, I'm doing it.
I'm gutted I didn't get the edition with the bag and the Shard of Darkness and all that sort of stuff. I'm a little bit sad I never got to that because I have a large portion of the special editions of Destiny throughout the years.
So you're actually, it's rare I say this, Robert, you're worse than me when it comes to the Destiny.
You know the edition that Destiny 2 launched with that came with the bag?
I know you've got that because I've seen the bag.
I've got the bag.
Yeah, I've seen it. Jesus, mate. We've both got problems, I think it's fair to say.
We're not playing enough Destiny, that's the problem.
Not to justify the amount we've spent on it, no, you're probably right. And what else have you been playing?
I've been dabbling a little bit in Total War Warhammer 2. Again, that's kind of my chill game this week. Sort of in between, I've got a spare half hour, 40 minutes. I'm just going to jump in there and progress through a campaign I'm doing. I'm using a mod popularized by a YouTuber called Okoye, I think that's how you pronounce it, where it lets you recruit on turn 1. It increases the cap of hero units. So you have a lord that runs the army, and you can have like heroes that are like lieutenants. The general setup is you have 2 or 3 maybe, and then infantry and missile units and cavalry and all that. No, you can fit in 19 of them in an army. So it would just be your lord and 19 heroes. But the heroes tend to have global buff effects. So in the army I have the lord, and I have 11 warlock engineers, all of which have a perk you can level into that increases missile damage and missile range and missile ammunition.
Does it all just stack as well?
Yes.
So they can fire across the entire map?
Not necessarily the entire map because the map's quite big, but very quickly I'm firing with artillery and like Jezzails and like machine guns, firing radioactive moon rock because Warhammer and Skaven. It's just good fun murdering everything from that far away. It's hilarious. So
they're all just like, we haven't even seen him yet, Jim. Oh god, we're being murdered out here. Why?
Yes.
Why? That sounds awful.
Except Jim's already dead.
Not just Jim! He's in bits next to the guy here already.
Basically.
Shit.
It's hilarious fun. It's been, as I said before, I've got half hour, 40 minutes before I need to go and do something or make dinner. Okay, I'll jump on that quickly.
Okay. Awesome. I think we're coming to the end here. Before we go, I'm just going to quickly mention very soon, at least 2 videos will be going up this week in addition to this podcast coming up. We're going to have Cook Serve Delicious 3 on Monday in time for the embargo, which is coming out on Xbox One this week. I've been playing that, and we'll be talking about that very soon with Rob. But basically, it's going to be a video you're going to want to check out. If you played the previous Cook Serve Delicious and enjoyed those, make sure you check out that video tomorrow. And in addition, Rob and I dabbled a little bit in this. It's also been playing As Far As the Eye, which is this really interesting hex-based roguelite, weird kind of mixture of like a roguelike and Civilization. FTL, yeah. It's got some. I can't wait to talk about that. It's a really curious but gorgeous looking game. Like stunning art style, absolutely beautiful. But yeah, those will both be coming this week as well, so make sure you keep an eye on the channel. And who knows, if me and Rob can find some more time, we'll squeeze some more in, or Richard or whoever, or Cameron. I know Cameron's got one to talk about. We're trying to find time for that as well. But yeah, we it's non-stop as the run up to these new consoles come out. Basically, it's gonna be lots to get through. So that was a lovely another episode there, Rob. I hope you've enjoyed talking about some video games with me this morning.
Always.
Just early start from us to come and talk video games. It's been nice. Yeah, so you can check us out at Experience Kills on Twitter. We're also available on the interwebs at www.experiencekills.co.uk. We have a website for some unknown reason. If you have been enjoying this in its audio form, please head over to the YouTube channel and give us a like and subscribe and enjoy the video content where you can see people like Arthur the Cat hanging out and Frank the Dog, which you won't get to enjoy on the audio show. Exclusives to the video. That's because these guys, they put it in their contract. They're only appearing on video. It's just what they said. We have to do what they say. Yeah, you can find me at DIYE on Twitter. You can find Rob at Homeless Mr. Gibbs. I believe that's correct, is it not?
Yes, indeed. If you want more pictures of Arthur and board games and such things, find me on Twitter.
Always good. But yes, if you are only watching this on YouTube and you don't always have time to watch an hour-long chat between me and Rob in visual form, which might not really give you that much more of an experience, you can now find the audio podcast on everything, including your Nests and Alexa devices now. We are... Arthur's coming up, if you heard that. Oh. That was Arthur hitting Rob's boom mic. That was incredible.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
That was good shit. I love it. But yeah, it killed my flow. But yeah, you can find us on Alexa by just saying... play Experience Kills on TuneIn, for example, and we will be in your ears immediately from that point. But we're also out on everything else now: Google Store, Amazon's music podcast thing, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere a good podcast can be found, you will find Experience Kills mixed in there. One bad one with all the good ones. That's how we like to roll. So yeah, until next time, we'll be back next week with news, games, chat, the usual. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Bye, Arthur.